Well, I am Frank Nichols. I am a student pastor here at Valley View Christian Church. How did I find my faith? Well, as far as I can remember, I was raised in the church. I was raised with a mom and a dad who both loved Jesus. About 13, my parents decided that they were going to get a divorce, and 2 days after Christmas, my dad left. That was the first time that I ever questioned, God, do you really exist? God, do you really care? That was the first time that I ever wondered, is faith real? Is there a reason for faith? Is God active in our lives? Before that, it was one of those things where church was just part of my life. Christianity was just part of my life. Faith was just part of my life. And it was at that moment on December 27th that I really came to a place where I said, okay, is Christianity and following God something that's going to be part of who I am for the rest of my life? And I got real with God that night and said, you know what, if you're there, then I need you to be real in my life. And it was in that short few hours where my mom, who worked nights as a nurse, went to work and placed me as a 13-year-old in charge of all of my younger siblings, that I felt the presence of God for the first time, where he truly said, not physically, but just with assurance through His Spirit, and just letting me know that He was there, that He was God, that He was in charge, and that He had a plan for me. It was kind of my thing that said, God, if you are there, then you know what, here's my life. And so since then, it's been one of those things where it's been a roller coaster. Sometimes there have been amazing things that have come. Sometimes there have been hard things that have come. The decisions that I've made because of my faith. When I gave my life to Christ, at about that same age, I said, you know what, I surrender. I realize that I'm not able to have a relationship with God on my own, that I need Jesus Christ. But it was, again, at that time where I really gave my heart to Him to say, you know what, if you're there, then here's my life. When I gave Him my life, that's exactly what I did. I've come to understand that it's bigger than simply giving your life. It's that idea that your old self dies on the cross with Jesus, that you now are living, as Galatians 2:20 says, that you've been crucified with Christ in the life we now live. We live by faith in the Son of God who died and gave Himself for us. But it's because of my old self dying that the decisions I make are based on my faith. Is this what Jesus Christ would try to do in my place? Obviously, Jesus lived thousands of years ago, or a couple thousand years ago. But what would Jesus do if He was in my place? And so I try to live by that every day. With the things that I have, with the blessings that He's given me, I try to make my life decisions based on what would Jesus do. And so I can't say that I've done that perfectly, but I can say that, it's the deciding factor for me in what decisions I will make in my life is, what would Jesus do? How would Jesus live if He was in my situation? And what have been the results of that? Well, you know what? I've seen God do amazing things in my life. I've seen Him bring my wife, who is way too good for me, into my life. I've seen us be married for almost 12 years, which is longer than most marriages in the United States. I've seen us have successful ministries in several different churches. And I've seen God bless us on a personal level, both through my family and how that's grown, and then also through us getting the gift of my son Isaiah. I can't say that everything's always been perfect, but I can always say from that moment when I was 13 that I've known, whether I've accepted it, whether I've fought against Him, that I've known that God was there. I've known that He was real, and I know that He's active in my life. And so I could go down the list of blessings, but ultimately it comes to knowing that I'm looking for what God's will is, whether that's the hard decision, whether that's the easy decision, and through that, God's blessed me more times than I could ever imagine. Hebrews 11:32-38 says, "And what more shall I say? I do not have time to tell about Gideon, Barak, Samson, or Jephthah, about David and Samuel and the prophets, who through faith conquered kingdoms, administered justice, and gained what was promised, who shut the mouths of lions, quenched the fury of the flames, and escaped the edge of the sword, whose weakness was turned to strength, and who became powerful in battle and routed armies. Women received back their dead, raised to life again. There were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and floggings, and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawed in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and mistreated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground." And that is my story.